Today on The Daily Charge, an ad agency ironically conceptualizes a digital token-based privacy system. More privacy concerns with Ring Home security, and YouTube slapped with a colossal $170 million fine.
Good morning and welcome to CNET's Daily Charge. It's Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Alfred Ng.
I'm Bridget Carey.
Let's get to the headlines. Google will be paying a record $170 million fine to the Federal Trade Commission to settle allegations that YouTube illegally collected personal information from children without parents' consent. This is the largest fine for a Children's Online Privacy Protection Act ever, and the law came into effect in 1998. It'll be $136 million to the FTC and $34 million to New York. The allegations were that YouTube violated COPPA by using tracking identifiers on people who watch channels specifically for children without getting parents' consent.
A major part of YouTube.
Yeah, that's like a whole economy out there, isn't that?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It is a major part because YouTube earned millions of dollars using those tracking cookies and delivering targeted ads based on people who watch those videos, most likely children. With this settlement, this basically means a lot of trouble for people that make content specifically for children on YouTube. YouTube will have to develop a system where children targeted channels have to identify themselves. If so, they won't be able to comment on it. They won't be able to send notifications or anything like that.
And the ads aren't going to be things that can be tracked on your behavior, just generic ads.
Yeah. And basically $170 million might sound like a lot, but I mean, the vote still came down to 3-2 with dissenters saying that the fine was not strong enough.
They make that in 11 hours.
Yeah.
That's not any money to Google and YouTube. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, Senator Ed Markey, who had written the COPPA bill back in 1998, had released a statement after the fine came out and noted, the FTC stands for Forgetting Teens and Children, arguing that
this spicy.
This amounts to nothing more than a slap on the wrist for YouTube and Google.
Because that they knew. It's one thing. It's like, oh gosh, what a mistake. No, they knew what was going on in the background, and this law has been around since '98. You said, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not like it's a secret.
If anything, this is more so going to impact these channels on YouTube that are making content for children specifically, because we're also making a lot of money off of this.
Anyone who has a kid knows that YouTube and nursery rhymes is like just a whole economy out there.
Yeah.
Just playing those Wheels on the Bus videos over and over again.
The good news is if you have one of those channels, these changes won't be coming for another 4 months. So you still have a good amount of time to look for alternatives to YouTube, but I mean, good luck.
Well, I think it's okay. It's like a yay moment. Okay, maybe they'll finally do something, but is this what it took? Okay.
Yeah. Next up, you might be sharing videos from Ring with police because you trust your local officers, but those videos can be used for completely unrelated issues. A CNET investigation found that Ring had been promoting to police that officers could share obtained footage with other agencies, and the company doesn't take responsibility for what happens once officers get those clips. In video requests from police sent through Ring, the company does not tell people that detail. So you don't know when your clip sent to police is being used for other purposes, which is something that privacy advocates worry about.
Because you should be able to know, okay, I give them the right, but then you realize you're just waving everything away.
Yeah, we asked 2 police departments, have you been sharing this with, federal agencies, other police departments? And they've said no, but there are more than 400 police departments partnered with Ring. I mean, we're most likely to get down and ask all of them.
And they said no, but that's not stopping them for a future case.
Yes. Yeah, because these police that we reached out to had only really partnered with them in the last 6 months or so. So if they can share with other agencies, there's a concern that, a clip used to stop a local burglary could also be used by ICE on an unrelated person in the video's background, for example.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of arguments on I have nothing to hide, and isn't it good that it can, stop someone who's terrible in the neighborhood? But what concerns me after reading your great report, golf clap, is that there's no wording for the consumer to say that this is happening. We need more transparency. If you want to participate, there needs to be, it all has to be spelled out that like my footage, if I send to a certain group can go anywhere. There's no time that it'll be deleted, that kind of thing. We have to think about the far reaching, like the step 5 and 6, not just the here and now.
Yeah. The argument is that, Ring keeps saying that people give this footage to, officers with their complete consent, but how much of it is really consent when you don't know like everything that you're giving up? And finally, here's an idea for online privacy from the people that developed the environment of constant tracking we live in today. The Interactive Advertising Bureau proposed a digital token identifier for every user online that people can use to tell advertisers their preferences, including opting out. So right now the internet is structured so you're tracked by ads and cookies wherever you go. Like this is most likely on this website as well. The token, the token idea is a single identifier instead of multiple trackers across a single website. And the IAB says you have the ability to tell advertisers to screw off in the settings. Privacy standards have obviously become an issue like in recent months, as YouTube learned this morning from its settlement, and the industry is kind of seeing the backlash and looking for solutions. Now this is still a proposal, but I mean, it's interesting. No one's really suggested, hey, just don't track me at all. I mean, wouldn't that be nice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I like the concept. I think it's clean, but I know it's like you can't just turn it off overall, but maybe this is the middle ground. That
it's hard not to feel like there's some kind of strings attached with this, considering that just a few years ago we thought, oh hey, isn't this great? Everything is free, and I'm not paying for any of this. And now we find out we're being tracked all over. It kind of just seems like history repeating itself with some like years down the line, we'll find out something about this identifier that we didn't know before.
It's the level of tracking that can creep you out once you start getting how deep they go. Like that's like, I don't mind you knowing that I like X, Y, and Z TV shows, but when you start getting really deep into what I'm shopping for, that's when I have to pump the brakes.
Yeah, and so now it's time for us to turn to the audience for our live Q&A section. We like to pick our audience's brain and find out what you want to learn, so please go ahead and light up the chat or hit us up on Twitter. BVG, what is on everyone's radar?
First question is coming in from our old friend Timothy. He's asking, is it Google or Alphabet who's paying that big YouTube fine?
It's so in the press releases from the FTC and YouTube statements, it's going to be Google paying that fine, which, you raise a good point. Google is owned by Alphabet, like they're the parent company. So all that money is going to come from the same pot either way. Mm-hmm. But in all the statements, it's specifically been pointing out Google and YouTube paying for this.
Next one's coming in, says, I'm just curious, where exactly does that $170 million fine go to? Now, you brushed on this quickly, but let's reiterate. Who and where is it going to benefit? Obviously, like a third of it's going just to lawyers. Is that true? I really want to see someone do a follow the money trail graph.
Yeah, I don't know how it breaks down after it goes to the FTC and the New York Attorney General's office. So when it says it goes to New York, that's what they mean. It's going to the Attorney General's office because they were part of this lawsuit and settlement. But how it splits up from there, I can't tell you. I don't know if it goes to all the commissioners that voted on it or something. If they voted against it, maybe they don't get the money. That's not true. Don't tell people that. But yeah, it's interesting how it breaks down. I'd be interested to see if the FTC uses that for more resources. Mm-hmm. They talk about how they have like 30 people to work on tech privacy issues, or like 30 or so. It's not that much compared to like ratio wise. It's like, I don't know, less than 100 people for like the entire population of the US, where like Ireland has like 300, 400 people for like their entire population on privacy concerns.
Wow. So yeah, they could use a little help maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think Facebook Live could be an alternative to YouTube? Let's go ahead and revisit some history here. We actually started this show on Facebook Live, and it went nowhere. So, no.
Yeah, also a lot of, like, Facebook also paid a lot of media companies to work on Facebook Live. I remember BuzzFeed had a show there. I remember the New York Times had a show on Facebook Live. There's some, like, quiz show going on there now with, like, some ripoff of HQ or something. but it's not like it hasn't really seemed to be working out for them. And then a lot of media companies that base their entire strategy around Facebook video are unfortunately under now because Facebook kind of just left them high and dry. So
YouTube is the search engine we're all using, for whatever. So nothing can touch that.
yeah, YouTube is the second most used search engine like online after Google. So, I mean, I know Facebook has been trying for a long time to knock off YouTube as far as like streaming goes and video content. And they've been trying to do with Instagram, also with IGTV. So far, no one's really been able to knock off YouTube. I think the closest might be Twitch, but like they're having a hard time moving out of like the gaming like live streaming niche.
Yeah.
Not for lack of trying, though. Let's take another question about the ad tokens. Can the ad identifier work on Facebook as well?
I think that's the proposal, right? Like
It would be everywhere. Like I didn't look at how they want to implement it, but I would imagine it'd be something that is like a universal profile that touches every service and site.
Yeah. So right now, if you like the average website, like if you go on, you'll have the Facebook tracker, you'll have Twitter's tracker, you'll have that own websites, like their own tracker, you'll have advertising, like 5 or 6, however many ads are on the site, you'll have those trackers.
It gets mucked up.
Yeah.
Like with how much is like tracking in different directions.
So I think the idea is like instead of like Facebook and all these other companies having their trackers, it's one tracker that Facebook would be a part of. They are a part of the IAB, like they represent them as well, as Google and Twitter. So,
but you have Facebook and Google making like all that money on their own proprietary like tracking tools, and so they're not going to play nice with this.
That's the thing. It's currently a proposal. How far it'll go, I don't know, but it's interesting that this proposal is coming from the ad industry itself, which I don't know how much you should trust that.
Well, they're probably looking for a solution that also bridges different mediums.
Yeah.
Because you have the television tracking and the
smart speakers that are like pretty difficult to track as well. So yeah, to answer the question though, like it's still a proposal, but I imagine Facebook would be folded into that token.
Why can't we have the quote-unquote P.O. box address version for the online web access privacy? Not really sure what he's referring to.
Oh, like the idea that like I don't have to tell you anything about myself. I just have a P.O. box. That I don't have to give you my address.
That's interesting.
I think you also have to think about how will companies like Apple respond when their money making angle now is like, oh, we'll make sure you're private. So would Apple be like pro this because you could have a profile, or against it because you shouldn't have any tracking whatsoever? Like this is a lot of
I mean, I would argue we already do have a system like a P.O. box, though, where, when they sent these trackers out, they don't say like, oh, this is Alfred, like who has been searching for like 10 hours of, Smash Mouth albums or something. They'll say like, oh, like this is, this computer that has been searching for 10 hours of Smash Mouth albums. And the idea being that, I can be tracked back to that. So it doesn't say my name, it doesn't say my address, and a lot of advertisers will always use as an excuse. Like, it doesn't have any personal information, but it's like, okay, well, if it's on this computer all the time, that's with me all the time, and has my email logged into it all the time.
And that email has your account with your pharmacy logged in. And that, and then that company or whatever company XYZ it is knows you by that email. It all connects.
So, yeah, it is a P.O. box system kind of, but imagine if that P.O. box has me coming to it every day and like picking something out of it every single day. Even if it doesn't have my name on it, or any personal information like outside of the box, like they know it's me that like goes there, and it wouldn't take much work to basically reverse engineer it and find out, oh, it's Alfred that wants 10 hours of Smash Mouth.
Or Smash Brothers.
What?
Didn't we have a do not track tag introduced in Internet Explorer years ago that no one respected?
Yep.
Is that kind of like the do not call list that no one pays any attention to?
Yep.
The total BS?
Yeah, so do not track doesn't work. It's supposed to be a browser standard, and there's no penalties for it. I think so. They introduced it within browsers itself, so it was never a law. And if your browser didn't adhere to it, like it just didn't respect like do not track. And then advertisers also did not adhere to it because they weren't going to get punished for it. So Do not track just straight up didn't work. There are lawmakers that are proposing that as like in privacy legislation, like being part of a law. We'll see where that goes, but as it stands currently, like do not track straight up doesn't work. If anything, it makes it worse for you because like it basically gives advertisers a log of people who sign up for do not track. It's like, oh, thanks for putting it all in one place.
Here's a good one. Yan is asking about Brave browser. I don't know anything about that. Do you guys have any background on Brave browser?
Yeah, Brave browser was created by I believe, co-founder of Mozilla. It's basically pushing itself as the browser that supports privacy. So it's been like blocking third-party trackers, all that kind of stuff. The problem with that is that, the rest of the internet might not work that well on it, but that's not a problem with Brave browser so much as it is a problem with advertisers and people that don't want to play nice with Brave browser. So a few months ago, there was this case with YouTube, where if you use YouTube on Chrome, it's pretty fast. Like it autoplays like when you open it up in a new tab, or it like just starts loading automatically. If you're using Firefox, you don't have that same privilege. And I wonder why, but yeah, so that's kind of been the issue currently with like switching browsers, especially ones that like respect your privacy a lot more, is a lot of the internet right now, because Chrome for a while had like such dominance of the internet, was that it like it was written to like be optimized for Chrome, and now with these other browsers,
they're just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
Privacy, and more privacy. These are really great questions rolling in, everybody. Thank you for participating. How much does Incognito Mode protect you?
Not at all. I don't know why. If there's anything you take away from this episode, I want you to know that Incognito Mode does not protect you at all. It protects your local browser history so that somebody else that gets on your computer can't ask, hey, what is this weird stuff that you've been looking up?
So if you share a computer at home, and let's do the good example, I'm buying a present for my roommate.
Google uses.
Yeah, exactly. Then they won't be able to see that, or like those shoes I'm looking for won't go on, and be advertised to me later.
But if I am in Hong Kong, for example, and I go on Incognito Mode and I search how to go to a protest, there's probably going to be some knocks at my door in a few minutes. So do not use Incognito Mode to protect yourselves from anything. Unless you're only worried about people that are also using your devices, then in that case, you're fine on Incognito Mode if you don't want it in your history. But yeah, tracking cookies will still track you on that. And
so even if you're on Incognito Mode, if I want to see an experience of Google that has an advertisement that's maybe more neutral, that's
a little bit different. Okay. So that's target advertising kind of stuff. So yeah, if I keep searching for something on Google on my own account, and then it'll pop up first. CNET will usually pop up first when I look up tech articles.
Right.
But if I want to make sure that my article is actually the first one there, I'll go on Incognito Mode and it'll give me a more accurate result. I'm talking about trackers within your ISP. So your internet service provider, they're not they know what traffic you're on even when you're on Incognito Mode. That doesn't change anything.
Right.
Just a few minutes left. What about VPN? Would that service offer some privacy in this situation? And at that note, when we also are talking about VPNs, let's highlight some of the better and maybe a couple of the worst ones. Because
I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry.
No?
There's so many out there. I actually did a roundup once of just explaining VPN, and I saw that it's just hard to recommend a certain good one versus bad one, but...
Can we just, are there a couple of red flags out there, though? There's a couple that have a bit of a bad reputation.
Okay, so if you are using a VPN that is free, you should understand this. That data is going to that VPN company. If you're going to use a VPN, you should at least pay for one, or at least try to develop your own, which I don't know how to do that. So that might not be the best advice.
Yeah, if something's free, your data is what's costing.
So just to kind of break it down, which by the way, check out Bridget Breaks It Down, great show on the CNET YouTube channel. When you're using a VPN, so as opposed to using your ISP, your own internet service provider, you're kind of going through a tunnel that leads to your VPN service provider. So if to bring up the China example, if I'm in Hong Kong and I don't want my government knowing that I'm looking up protests, I can use a VPN that makes my IP address look like it's from the US or Canada or something instead. And I would actually be able to search up results that way. The problem with free VPNs is that like all that data is going to that company that you signed up with. So
Can you trust them?
Yeah. If you trust it, sure, whatever. But I don't think there's a lot of reasons to when it's a free service. But that being said, you know, a VPN that you pay for could also be doing that. So there's a lot of like issues with VPN that I won't like get into currently.
And lastly, let's go back over to YouTube and how this is going to impact creators and influencers on the platform. Is it Facebook, or excuse me, does Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pay creators, or do they have any plans to pay creators like YouTube does?
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Essentially, they're asking with the other major rising video platforms as YouTube crumbles around its own seams.
But
Is there enough incentive for creators to flip?
No, is the question though about like, so are you saying does Facebook pay people to create content though, or does it pay based off of like a view system like what YouTube does?
You know,
like,
it's not specifying that in the question. Imagine,
Where's
Sagi,
the
if you
motivation
want to
to
go ahead
leave?
and clarify that for us. We're trying to see where you're coming from on this one. In the meantime, what kind of plans are available? How does it work? I know a lot of people on those platforms heavily rely on things like Patreon to keep their content flowing, but are there any kind of tiered creator plans or incentives on those platforms?
Well, I know with it. I mean, obviously, there's the influencers who like try to, you know, have you know, sponsorships based on how many followers they have. But I do not think that. Well, I know. I mean, on Twitter, like you can't make money off Twitter.
well, there's
so,
sponsored like posts, like you
Yeah.
can. As a former social media manager for another company, we got paid like around 5 figures for like 3 tweets in a month, which is insane. But also that account had like a lot of followers on it. So you're being paid that way. But in that scenario, Twitter itself is not paying like content creators, right? Like there's advertisers doing that. I can't say how much Instagram influencers make because I've never done that. But yeah, it's the same thing with like Facebook. So Facebook, like there are like sponsored posts there. I don't know how much they make, but I also know that it, like I said, like Facebook had been paying media companies to like make content on live as if they were their own like TV channel or something like that.
to kind of rev up the
Yeah.
amount of watchable content.
Yeah, because they're also trying to like rev up like what Facebook Watch or Watch Party now or something like that, where like you can live stream with your friends at the same time, which is basically Twitch or this. So,
But certainly no one would leave the community of YouTube.
yeah,
for
I
that.
mean, it might be. I could see an exodus to Instagram over that, with like children's content creators. Especially with like IGTV now, where they can upload way more, and they already have like an influencer like network on Instagram for like these children's TV shows. Not
how
TV
many
shows.
parents
YouTube.
are going to be giving they're like, hey, honey, just play on my Instagram.
Yeah,
account.
that's
Like,
gonna be the problem.
yeah.
Would you let your kids go on Instagram?
No.
Wait, Alfred, you're a social media manager?
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
You want to take over the Twitter account for the Daily Charge? Because I hate Twitter.
I mean, who do you think was tweeting for the 359 all this time?
I know. That's why I want to pass it back. Because
Yeah,
they
I'm
bestowed
good.
it upon me, and all I want to do on Twitter is talk about the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, not legitimate news topics. We did get some clarification before we wrap up from Imagine Sagi. They say just that creators I know are paid for views on YouTube, but it seems like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter don't do that.
Yeah,
right
they don't do
now.
that. They don't pay per views.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Glad that we cleared that up. We do have a request on the table, and I think we should take this to heart. In the future, if we're ever looking to do a deep dive, there's a request for us to really delve into VPNs. Some people don't have one, and hang on, I lost
It
my
is a
thread here.
confusing topic.
Yeah.
And I hear you on that because there's so much out there and you search for it and you can't even trust, like, is this really the best or just this an advertised
Yeah.
one?
The big argument I would make about VPNs is it depends on your threat model, where if you think that, you know, the government is after you, you think somebody's spying on you via your Wi-Fi network or however you get online, you should get a VPN. I think it would keep you safe, and you should pay for it, and it's a good investment to have to protect yourself. I know that when I was at Black Hat and DEF CON, I was using CBS's VPN the whole time. But if you're like an average person who just like goes about your daily life and, you know, don't have enemies that you know of or people going after you, it doesn't really make that much sense. Like VPNs in the past were really useful because there were so many websites online that were insecure. So like if I was at a Starbucks and I was on the local Wi-Fi there, if someone else was on the same Wi-Fi and I went on like a website that wasn't HTTPS, they could see what I was like looking at. They could see all my web traffic for like to that website. Like even if I typed in a password, they could see that content. VPN would protect you there, obviously, but like a good chunk of the like everything that's online is like HTTPS now. I remember one year at Black Hat and DEF CON, I had a spare phone that was like, I'm gonna try to get like stuff on this phone hacked. And I couldn't find a website that was not HTTP like S. So it's just like one of those things where I was like, oh, it's like pretty hard to basically get hacked without a VPN currently. But that being said, you still can be, but it takes like a certain level of dedication to do that, which was my point where like if you have an enemy, yeah, you should have a VPN. If you don't have any enemies that you know of, I don't know if it's like worth it for you.
Been a really great conversation today. I do think we should put that in our back pocket. In the next couple weeks, we're going to be obligated to cover a bunch of Apple stuff for the sake of the industry and their unveilings and, yes, clicks. But maybe after the dust settles, we should do a deep dive on VPN. And we should recruit Timothy to help us out on this one. Tim says he's actually set up his own. I'm curious to learn how to do that myself.
Oh, he did set up his own VPN. Yeah, I looked into it a while ago, and then it was like, it's not worth the effort for me. I don't have enough enemies. I am in the process of making more enemies, though. So if you can send me that guide, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Tim, seriously, if you want to do like a walkthrough or something, reach out to us. Reach out to me on Twitter, even though I hate it. And we'll figure something out. Maybe we can do like a video submission, give you some credit there somehow. We'll talk if you're interested. No obligation. But until then, we're out of time. Thanks, everybody. Great conversation, as always. We'll see you tomorrow, Alfred.
All right, pause for segment graphic, close. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Keep the conversation going, and we'll do our best to follow up after the show. We are live every weekday morning here on YouTube, Periscope, and CNET.com. Our audio podcast is also available on pretty much everywhere you can download content. For the Daily Charge, I'm Alfred Ng.
I'm Bridget Carey.
Thanks for joining us.